welcome to the Cass Health Podcast, the show where we hope to connect our community with healthcare information that's relatable, understandable, and useful to your life, and where you get to know better the neighbors providing your care here. I'm your host, Carter Anderson, and in today's episode, we'll be talking all about the Cass Health Apprenticeship Program with Educational Services Director Brittni Schmidt and HR Coordinator Kat Niemann. Before we get started, two quick disclaimers. First, the comments in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of Cass Health. Second, the information in this podcast is not intended to be construed as personal medical advice. Always consult your primary care provider with your questions and concerns regarding your health. Welcome. Thanks for taking some time to chat with me today. It should be a good conversation here all about the apprenticeship program. So before we get started with the meat and potatoes of the podcast, we're just going to go through some quick get to know you questions. So I'll start with Brittni. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Greenfield, and we, in the last 5 years, moved to Wyoda.
Kat, where are you from?
I'm originally from West Bend, Iowa, up in northwest Iowa. But my husband Andy and I have lived in Atlantic for about 8 years, so we call Atlantic home now.
Awesome. Very cool. Brittni, do you have a favorite sports team?
Favorite sports teams? I guess I would say the Iowa Hawkeyes. Alumni.
Woo. Alumni, there you go. When did you graduate from Iowa?
2020.
2020? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Very cool. Kat, do we have any favorite sports teams?
I mean, we just kind of talked about this earlier, but I am not a competitive person, so sports are not really my thing, which is funny that I'm married to an athletic trainer. But I guess I'm going to copy Brittni and say the UNI Panthers, because I'm also a proud alumni. And if I didn't say the Green Bay Packers, I might be disowned as well. So
there you go. Just because you have to, the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I guess because I have to.
Right. If you're cooking dinner to impress, Brittni, what are you making?
I do actually like to cook. I cook a lot, so I don't know. I feel like I cook a lot of different good recipes. I would say Marry Me Chicken. That one's kind of a favorite.
What goes into Marry Me Chicken? Obviously something good if it's like got a connotation like that behind it.
Yeah, it's well, and I think I do it a little bit different because I'm more of a just throw everything together. But chicken, and then it's like an Alfredo-y white creamy sauce with the sun-dried tomatoes. That's always, my go-to. It's my favorite.
Yeah, sounds good. Kat, what about you?
So Auntie's usually the cook, actually, when we're eating like a nice meal. But I would say I do a really mean Philly cheesesteak. So I sear my roast or whatever you're going to use, whatever cut of meat. Some people use sirloins, whatever you want to do. And then let it sit in the crock pot all day. And it's delicious.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Driving alone in the car, what are we jamming out to?
Honestly, it'd probably be any Taylor Swift song.
Okay, there we go. Are we both in our Taylor Swift era?
I think I am. I'm there.
This is really hard for me to pick because I am a music person. Sports is not my thing, but fine arts and music definitely is. But if I'm alone, I'm definitely hitting the show tunes, any sort of belter, outer. I don't have one that I can pick, though, because they're all good. But I think right now, Wicked is really big right now, so I'll say Defying Gravity.
Okay.
That one is. And I totally can't hit those notes, but I enjoy it while I am singing. It might not sound great, but...
I say it sounds good while you're by yourself in the car, right?
Adina, that is for sure. But I would try.
Try as you may.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite holiday?
Honestly, I think Christmas. I feel like I celebrate that for like 3 months. It's just happy time, yeah. I love decorating. It's fun.
What about you, Kat?
I'd say Christmas as well. I have 3 little kids, so I think just seeing that Christmas magic with them is so fun, and it's just kind of a fun, cozy time of year. Second would be 4th of July, I think.
Mine too.
So, yeah. They're just two really good holidays.
So two good ones with all the good feels, right?
Yeah, and my hometown is similar to Exira, so we have a lot of, there's a parade and there's all kinds, like everybody comes home. It's just kind of a also fun time of year, but maybe not cozy, but still fun.
Enjoy the sun.
Yeah,
it's always nice to be out in the sun.
Stuff.
Yeah, celebration for sure. We will never catch you doing what?
Probably reading a book.
So your answer's going to be different from Kat's. Got it.
Or I should say a fictional book. I should say you won't catch reading a fictional book.
Not reading for leisure, anything like that, right? Kat, what about you? What would we never catch you doing?
Hugging someone outside of my family circle. Not a hugger.
The cactus.
Yes.
What is better, the book or the movie?
Always the movie.
Always the movie. You haven't read the book, so it
No.
can't spoil it for you, right? There you go.
Movies are great. Yeah, just don't read the book.
Mm-hmm.
Always the book. Always the book. And I always read the book before I go see the movie.
Have you ever thought about doing it the other way?
No.
And maybe it would change your mind.
Nope. And then I'm usually mad when I leave the movie because they didn't do something the way the book was. So,
This is why
or the show, because Bridgerton is all books, but
it's just better not to read the book.
Or you didn't picture it exactly how. It's like, that's
Yes,
not what I pictured
that's
that
not
person.
what I- yeah.
Yeah. Dang it. That's
but
hard.
sometimes they do hit it right on. But you know, like the Harry Potter series, I'd say was very well done. But there's still so much that happens in the books that
They just
they
left
just
out.
can't
Yeah.
keep it. I mean, there's just no way you can put everything in.
Right.
Always the book.
What is the Cass Health Apprenticeship Program?
So this apprenticeship program is now an RN apprenticeship. Those listening may remember that we had an LPN apprenticeship, but we have now expanded that, and it is now an RN apprenticeship. It is meant to be about 2 years in length. So the folks entering it will have all prereqs and entrance requirements for the LPN program at Iowa Western complete prior to entrance to the apprenticeship program. So we will not take anyone that hasn't completed developmental psych, comp 1, and then the anatomy and physiology sequence, so 1 and 2 of those. There is a prereq for the prereq at Iowa Western for anatomy and physiology 1, which is human bio. You can have, if you've taken anatomy and physiology in high school at least a year, you can cancel that out. But if you've not, you will have to take human bio. So there's 3 courses. Usually folks have to take 3 courses in that sequence because they have to do the human bio and then 1 and 2 of anatomy and physiology. So, and then they also need to complete what is called the TEAS test, TEAS. And it is a standardized test similar to like what you would see with an ACT or an SAT. It's a similar kind of thing. And they have to pass that in order to get into the nursing program at Iowa Western. So we need to see that that's complete and passed as well before they can enter the apprenticeship program. Then once they do that, they'll do their year of LPN and then their year, which is licensed practical nurse, and then they'll complete their year for registered nurse. And they'll have 2,000 hours of on-the-job training, which they'll work here. And I'll let Brittni kind of explain what that looks like. And then they will also have their related training instruction hours, which match exactly with the LPN and RN curriculums. So there's no way they can't complete those because they have to complete those in order to graduate. So, and we'll pay for everything. We pay for tuition, books, fees. We have some money for logo apparel, whether that be Cass Health scrubs or if they just want plain scrubs, whatever they want. We have a little money for that. Yeah, I think that about wraps it up other than what the core, what the rotations look like. And I'll let Brittni explain that.
Yeah, so the rotations while you are an apprentice at Cass Health, I think is the most exciting part of this program. Yes, we do pay for everything to help assist you with the financial burden of schooling, but getting you the hands-on experience of being in the clinical setting that you'll most likely work in after school is huge. So we allow our apprentices to come on in various different departments that we have at Cass Health, and then they'll spend maybe 5 to 6 months in that department learning the flow of it, learning different experiences, and then when they feel like they've gotten a good grasp of how that department operates, we transition them into another department. So they could be in the clinic for a few months and then go into ER, surgery department, go up to the inpatient floor. I mean, just all over, and just really get a well-rounded learning experience.
Is there a certain number of departments they have to rotate through, or is it just kind of up to the individual apprentice, like to decide like what they're interested in?
So it kind of lines up to get them through the major departments in that 2-year span if they're doing about 5 months in each one. Typically that leaves us maybe one rotation that they don't get to go into, but we can make it work if they want to do all of them. There's typically some nursing students that, you know, if they're really nervous about ER and like I would prefer not to, or if they don't want to do OB, I don't want to force them into an environment that they're not comfortable in. So I will make note of that and not force them into that department. So if there is one that they absolutely do not want to be in, then we will definitely keep them away from it. Or if they have previous work experience, you know, if they were a CNA or a patient care tech in that department and they kind of feel familiar with it, we can try to do other rotations instead.
Kind of bolster their skills in other places if they're already kind of used to that or comfortable with that setting. Gotcha. How can high school students be preparing themselves to take advantage of this program as soon as they graduate from high school? What are some of those things that like high schoolers can be doing now so they can take advantage of this program as soon as possible?
Yeah, that's been a big question from our community partners. Like, how does this benefit our local students right out of the gate? And I have been in contact with all 3 guidance counselors at the county school, so they have my number, so they can reach out for those that are listening if you have questions. But really what my hope for high school students is they need to start thinking about this at their sophomore year. Because what I would like them to do, my hope would be to do their anatomy and physiology their year of high school, their junior year. That way that knocks out that human bio requirement. And then do A&P 1 their first fall semester of their senior year, and A&P 2 their spring semester of their senior year. And then also completing Comp 1 and developmental psych somewhere within those 2 years, just because they're done, right? Iowa Western does also require a few other ones that aren't technically nursing classes that they can take along their nursing sequence. So like nutrition would be an example of that. Public speaking is in that mix, sociology, there's, a few there. So they could also be taking those as well, because then they could take a lighter load when they're in their nursing classes. So that would be my recommendation for high school students listening right now. Now, what if I'm a junior, or what if I'm a senior and I'm just starting to think about this? That's okay. The world is not ending if you are already that far into your high school education journey. That's totally fine. I would say start your science sequence as soon as possible. So doing that in A&P sequence, whether it be your high school level course, a full year, or A&P 1 and 2, or getting into human bio even. And if you need help, or have questions, I know Cindy at Iowa Western is always happy to talk to students, and I am too. I'm always available. So, but that would be my recommendation for high school students. Start thinking about it sooner rather than later, for sure. We do still have apprentices fill out their financial aid. And I know that sounds kind of odd because we will pay for everything, but here's why. If students qualify for what's called a Pell Grant through the U.S. Department of Education, that is free money from the U.S. Department of Education. So I guess why wouldn't we take advantage of that? Because that's more money that we can then put aside for other things within our grant process that we are using, which is through the governor's office. So we do have students still fill out their financial aid. And if they need help doing that, I am more than happy to help them. And Cindy at the Cass County satellite with Iowa Western is also more than happy to help students. So definitely that's another thing I guess I would have students think about, get that filled out. It's super easy compared to what it was like when I was in school a million years ago. Everything's automated. Everything automatically loads in. It's much easier than it used to be. So, but yes, keep that in mind. We do want students to complete that. If we can get grant money, why not?
Just kind of touched on Iowa Western a little bit too. Kind of what is Iowa Western's role when it comes to this kind of first of its kind program here at Cass Health?
So Iowa Western's role is the RTI, or the related training instruction. So we still need to provide that classroom education, and the Board of Nursing requires so many hours of simulation, clinicals, skills lab, and all of that is provided by Iowa Western. And then we just partner with them and allow our nursing staff to be the educators through Iowa Western and teach them here at Cass Health. So it's kind of like we're getting the curriculum and all of the material from Iowa Western and providing it on campus for those students.
And we should be clear, too, that this program is an online program through Iowa Western. So our students are our students. We're the Cass Health campus of Iowa Western Community College. So the students are here doing their apprenticeship, but they're also here with our instructors who are also Iowa Western instructors. And they are doing their clinical here. Everything is here. So they don't have to go to Council Bluffs. They don't have to go to Harlan. They stay right here in our community.
That is awesome. That is super cool. And it is kind of the first program of its kind to do anything like this, isn't it? Kind of a hospital to partner with an education center like that. Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of eyes around the state on us right now working through this. So it's definitely cutting edge.
Very cool. What kind of is the overarching goal of the apprenticeship program? Kind of once we get all these students through the RN program and they're getting ready to graduate, kind of like what is that goal once they are done, I guess?
I mean, I'd like to retain as many of them as we can. Obviously, there's a nursing shortage, and there was before COVID, and we are continuing to see that. And we'll see this generation that are getting close to retirement. They're gonna start moving out. So we need to have the workforce to back them up, especially as the boomers continue to age. So I hope to retain them, but really the goal ultimately is more nurses, right? More nurses in our community. It's good for us. It's good for long-term care facilities. It's good for area hospitals. I mean, we've got lots of county hospitals in the area, so it's good for everyone. But I should mention there is no service requirement after this apprenticeship. So our apprentices are not required to stay with us a certain amount of time. But if they would like to stay with us, they are welcome to apply and speak to those department leaders, nursing leaders that they're interested in staying if there's an opening. And it's really great, honestly, for us because we get to know them kind of through their apprenticeship and they get to know us. And that orientation period is almost obsolete or not obsolete, but complete because they've pretty much done it, as they've been working through their apprenticeship hours and their clinical hours with us. So we're really, they'll be able to hit the ground running as soon as they pass that NCLEX. So
awesome. That is super cool to just kind of see how that experience almost transitions you right into being able to start your professional experience. Kind of to touch on that a little bit, Brittni, how is this program different than a traditional RN program or traditional nursing program? What really sets it apart for what the apprentices can gain from it?
Yeah, so the biggest difference is the amount of experience they get. Like I talked about earlier, the Board of Nursing sets a standard of clinical hours and skills lab hours that they have to complete. And we're just giving them so many more hours while they're in our program to develop those skills and get that hands-on experience. So it's just the confidence they will have, the knowledge, the practice, kind of like we talked about it being their orientation. They won't need that upwards of 12 to 16 weeks of orientation because they will have had a lot of that experience and practice while in the apprenticeship program.
And while they're here working as apprentices, getting those hours in, are they paid as employees here at Cass Health, or how does that work when they're working as apprentices here?
They are paid. We do pay them and what we call an occasional status. So that gives us and them some flexibility as far as hours a week, because we want to make sure they're able to balance school and working. Because obviously school comes first. We want them to succeed, but also be working at the same time. So it's kind of an earn as you learn model.
Kind of touching on that, why continuing to get good grades is really important. It's always a priority when you're going to school for anything, especially nursing, but why is completing each course successfully on time such an important part of the apprenticeship program?
Their status as a student is directly correlated or connected with their status as an employee or an apprentice with us. So if they're not passing their classes and they get out of sequence, so let's say they pass all but one of their nursing classes. Well, now they've got to retake that one class. Well, now you're off sequence, because this is really going to be a cohort model. So we'll start groups in the summer-ish. They'll start in the fall for classes, and so they'll stay together through their whole 2 years. So they'll kind of build like a nice little support group, really, as they go through their program. But if you don't pass all your classes, you're going to be out of sequence on, one or two or whatever you don't pass. So now you aren't with your group anymore. So you are now no longer an apprentice, and you are welcome to reapply once you are back on track. Really, really, it's important to have good grades and stay on top of your coursework, no matter what program you're in, but especially this program, so you're staying with your sequence and staying an apprentice.
Brittni, I know you work with the students a lot more hands-on than Kat does. What positive feedback are you hearing from apprentices right now that are kind of going through the program currently?
I feel like it's every day there's one of them in my office saying, oh my gosh, I got to do this today, or this is what's happening now. And I think looking at it from an outside perspective, being available to support them with their coursework is huge. They can trust that they can come find me and ask questions and say, hey, I'm struggling with this piece of my homework. Can you help me? And I'll set time with them and help them. So having that support has been a huge positive for them in the program. Whereas, if they were just in a traditional nursing program, they would only have like the tutor or the school resources. So having that extra resource here. And then like we've talked about, the hands-on experience, that's just, it partners with their schooling so well that they'll come in, and recently we just had a meeting, and they were excited because a couple of them got to be a part of a thoracentesis, and they were on the cardiac chapter. So it's like, okay, great, let's learn about this. How does the thoracentesis affect your heart? And kind of making those connections, so then when they go take their tests and do their schooling, it just makes so much more sense because they're seeing it and touching it and being a part of it, and can ask the providers and the nurses these questions that they could see on their test.
Just so much more active involvement and stuff like that leads to better learning. Yeah. Do they have mentors and stuff? Are they like paired with mentorship program here at the hospital as well?
Yes.
The apprenticeship program?
So along with me supporting them and Kat and Katie Christensen supporting them, we also assign each apprentice, and each apprentice gets a mentor, and the mentor sticks with them the whole program. And this is another support system. It's another support person that they can go to that is an experienced nurse that can give them feedback on, hard patients, or if they're struggling with schoolwork, or just kind of navigating what being a nurse is.
Very cool. That's awesome to have that resource there to be able to bounce those things off of, and have someone that's kind of in the same building as you too. Mm-hmm. That's always available. Yes. So if someone's listening to this podcast right now and they're super interested in this apprenticeship program, how would they go about applying for this program, and kind of what would that timeline look like as they would move forward through the apprenticeship process?
This is a very competitive program. This is not something that, Joe Schmo off the street is going to be apply and get in. Like, we want to see good grades. We want to see a high TEAS test score. When we interview these folks, we're going to want to see some ambition, some drive, get up and go. Like, this is going to be a very competitive program moving forward, as we've learned a lot in this year that we've had the LPN. So we are going to open up the application process after Christmas, so January 2025. We'll have applications open on casshealth.org on our careers page, just like you would apply for any other job. So that will open up in January. It will be open in February, so we'll take applications for January, February. And then we will close that at the end of February. We will do interviews, Brittni and I, and maybe a few special guests in March. And then we will announce who will be joining us in April. So we will make offers in April 2025.
What would you say to a prospective apprentice listening to this right now?
Take your prereqs seriously, because they are prerequisites for a reason. Every class is important. I think I hear a lot from our current apprentices because the apprenticeship was set up a little bit differently before how we are going to set it up moving forward. I hear a lot of like, why do I have to take Comp 1? Why do I have to take public speaking? And I can understand their frustration, and I think 18-year-old, 19-year-old Kat probably would have felt the same way. But honestly, you do have to write a lot as a nurse. A lot. And sometimes what you put in a patient's chart could have to hold up in court. Like, you need to be able to write well and be able to express ideas and different things that you are charting for patients. You also need to be able to speak. You are going to be talking to people a lot. So those classes are important. And so just really embracing every educational opportunity, be open to those learning opportunities, and commit to them.
I was going to say commit, yes.
Commit, because the nursing school, and Brittni knows better, obviously, than I do, because I did not go to nursing school. I have worked with nursing students for a lot of my career, so I've watched from the sidelines. It is not for the faint of heart. You definitely got to commit to it and be ready to learn.
And I think that's one of the biggest things students learn while in the nursing program is they don't realize how much time and commitment and prioritizing of nursing school that has to happen. And I think that's the biggest learning curve for people when they enter the nursing programs is, wow, this is literally my life right now, is all I am doing is nursing school. And I think that's where being in the apprenticeship program really helps give you that hands-on experience to help, add to that learning environment and maybe ease that stress a little bit of the unknown of being a nurse. And but yeah, you have to commit to it and know that this is going to be your priority, and everything else has to go on the back burner for the 2 years that you're here.
Yep. You think about inserting a catheter, right? Like, you might be able to get one during your clinical, but you're fighting with 6-7 other nurses over that one. Mm-hmm. Whereas we have students that are doing 2-3 a shift, so they just, that practice, they're just going to be more competent when they graduate, and that's fantastic for everyone. Right?
I was going to say, makes it better for everyone, not just here, but all across Southwest Iowa.
Yeah.
So
everyone's going to want a Cass Health nurse.
Well, Brittni and Kat, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with me today, and thanks for all that you're doing to help kind of train the next generation of nurses. Very cool.
Thank you for having us.
So I'll start with Brittni. Where are you from?
I don't even know where I'm from.
You don't even know where you're from? What?
Like, home. Why are you starting
what's my name?
You know how nervous I am. Oh, God, give me a second.
You're okay.
She's from Greenfield.
Okay.
Well, am I from Greenfield or am I from Northern Iowa? Like, I don't know. I've lived in multiple places.
Wherever you say.
This is where I can't do these things. Okay.
We're going to have to start over.
Sorry.